Okay, I want you to picture something. And I have a feeling this is going to be uncomfortably familiar for a lot of us.
I'm already nervous.
Right. So it's early morning, maybe 6 a.m. The city's still half asleep. That sort of gray pre-dawn light is just starting to come through the blinds.
I can see it.
You're sitting at your desk. There's a cup of coffee next to you, but it's already got that, gross little cold film on top.
Because you haven't touched it.
You haven't taken a sip in 20 minutes. You are just staring at a blank document, and the cursor is just blinking. Blink, blink, blink. And the title of the document is Big Project.
I think every single person listening has occupied that chair.
I feel like I live in that chair.
Yeah.
And the to-do list is glowing on the second monitor, and every single item feels like monumental.
Climbing Everest without oxygen, monumental.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, you physically can't move. You aren't scrolling social media. You aren't...
No, not procrastinating in the fun way.
Not in the fun way. You're just frozen. And you know it's not because you're lazy. It's not a lack of talent. It is just the sheer crushing weight of expectation.
It's paralysis.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. It's the freeze response.
It is. And the internal monologue is always something like, okay, I just need to get motivated. When the inspiration strikes, when the caffeine hits, then I'll start.
But we're mostly just waiting for lightning to strike, right? While the clock is ticking down and the anxiety is ticking up.
That is the modern paradox in a nutshell. We live in this age that absolutely worships productivity. We have the apps, the gurus, the systems.
A distinct method for organizing our sock drawers.
And yet we're spiritually exhausted by the very systems that we built to help us. We're chasing these grand visions, but we're drained before we even take step one.
That's the struggle of that learner profile we see so often. You want the success, you're willing to do the work, but your soul is just tired.
The engine's running, but the gears aren't catching. So today we're doing something different. We're diving into a stack of ideas that suggests the solution isn't another productivity hack or some high-energy pep talk. It's actually a radical reorientation.
It is. And honestly, the core theme we're exploring today is going to sound completely counterintuitive to our high achievers. The wisdom suggests that when you're in that frozen state, the answer is to start small.
Right.
But not for the reason you think. Not because you must pick a box, but because you can.
So we're calling this deep dive the lazy path to real success. And our mission is to investigate how doing less, but with radically more intention, might be the secret to finishing that big project without losing your mind.
I love that title, The Lazy Path. It sounds like we're giving up, doesn't it?
It does, like tossing in the towel.
But we're actually tuning in.
Well, I have to play the skeptic here right off the bat. Usually when I hear start small, I just think of, generic advice like make a list. It feels like a distraction. But you've got a story from the Zen tradition that frames this a little differently.
I do. It's a classic. And it really sets the stage for everything we need to discuss. There's a young monk who goes to his master, desperate for wisdom. He asks, "Master, how do I attain enlightenment?"
He wants the big answer, the secret sauce.
He wants the shortcut to the divine. Exactly.
Naturally, the view from the top of the mountain without the hike, that's very relatable.
It is. And the master looks at him and asks this very simple, almost boring question. He says, "Have you eaten your rice?"
Have you eaten your rice?
The monk is confused, maybe a little annoyed, but he says yes. And the master just replies, "Then wash your bowl."
Okay, hold on. If I go to a career coach because my business is failing and they tell me to wash my bowl, I'm asking for a refund. I mean, how does doing the dishes help me with the crisis?
That is a completely fair reaction. It sounds dismissive.
It sounds like it's trivializing the problem.
It does. But here's where it gets fascinating. The master isn't telling him to do chores. He's teaching him about fidelity. The idea is that enlightenment or success or clarity, whatever you're chasing, isn't found way out there in the distance.
It's found right here.
It's found in the fidelity of ordinary acts. Washing the bowl isn't a chore, it's a declaration. It's saying that presence matters more than progress, at least at first.
So it's not about getting the bowl clean, it's about the act of cleaning itself.
Precisely. This is the root of what we're calling the method of small wins. And it comes from the Buddhist understanding of karma.
Now, that's a word we have to be careful with.
We do. In the West, we think of it as, cosmic justice, what goes around comes around. But in Buddhism, karma literally just translates to intentional action.
Just action, not fate.
Intentional action. Every single deed, no matter how tiny, carries energy. It leaves a footprint on your mind.
So every conscious choice plants a seed.
Yes. And here's the key for anyone feeling stuck. When motivation vanishes, and it's a fickle emotion, it will vanish, what remains isn't willpower, it's willingness.
Willingness.
Just that quiet readiness to do one tiny thing with care.
That distinction feels really important because I can't control if I feel motivated. I can't just force a dopamine hit.
No.
But I can control if I'm willing to just do the next thing, even if I do it grumpily.
Right, and this connects directly to modern psychology. We've seen so much research on the science of momentum.
We have. And it turns out modern behavioral science echoes this ancient wisdom almost perfectly. The research shows that motivation is often a trailing indicator.
It follows action, it doesn't precede it.
Exactly. We sit around waiting to feel good so we can work. But actually, the brain's reward system responds to completed microactions. You send one email, you write one paragraph.
You wash one bowl, and your brain gets that little hit of dopamine and says, hey, we did a thing.
Yes. It signals that you're capable of efficacy. Those small acts aren't less than the big project, they're the building blocks.
But, and this is the crucial part, the spiritual twist here, is that it's not just about ticking a box to trick your brain. If you wash the bowl while frantically thinking about the next 10 things, you've missed the point entirely.
It's about the quality of tension you pour into it.
Exactly. A single mindful breath can reset your entire nervous system. A single act of tidying your workspace can restore a sense of dignity to your day.
Dignity, that's a powerful word to use there. It stops it from being a hack and makes it personal.
Think about walking meditation. Monks walk incredibly slowly, feeling every single lift and placement of the foot. To a modern mind, that looks like a complete waste of time.
A total waste of time. We're obsessed with speed and scaling.
But the secret is, when you honor the small, the large becomes possible. You aren't hacking success, you are reclaiming agency over your attention. And your attention is your most precious resource.
I want to pivot this to a very specific and painful scenario, because washing the bowl is great when it's 10 a.m. on a Sunday, but what about the 3 a.m. crisis?
The 3 a.m. crisis, the haunting.
You know the one. You're an entrepreneur or a professional with a lot on your plate, and you're just awake, staring at the ceiling. What if we miss the quarter? What if I'm a fraud? What if I lose everything?
That loop of terror.
Yes.
That loop is what Buddhist psychology calls sankharas.
Sankharas. Okay, let's unpack that. It sounds heavy.
It is heavy. Sankharas are basically mental grooves, habitual formations. Think of them like a deep rut in a dirt road. If you drive down it enough times, your wheels just naturally slide into it.
You don't even have to steer into it. The car just goes.
The car just goes.
Yeah.
And the paralysis comes because you're caught in a sankhara of overwhelm. That loop that says, I must do everything perfectly or I'm worthless.
So how do we break a mental groove that deep? Especially at 3 in the morning when we are not exactly thinking rationally.
Well, the method of small wins suggests you disrupt the loop, not by fighting it. You don't lie there and argue with yourself because that just adds more energy to the loop. You gently introduce a new pattern. So instead of strategizing in bed, you get up, you go to the kitchen, you make a cup of tea. You just sit for 5 minutes watching the steam rise.
I have to be honest, it sounds almost too simple. I am panicking about my quarterly earnings, and you want me to watch steam. I feel like my brain would just scream at me for wasting time.
And that screaming, that is the sankhara. It's fighting for its survival. But here's why the tea works. It creates what you could call a microspace of sanity.
It's not avoidance.
It's strategic presence. You're pulling your mind out of the future where fear lives, because fear is always about what might happen, and you're anchoring it in the present, in physical reality.
It's like hitting the reset button on a frozen computer.
Exactly. You can't just keep clicking the mouse. You have to do a hard reset. The scientific term would be neuroplasticity, rewiring the brain. But the Buddhist term is kavana.
Havana.
It means cultivation. You don't wait to feel ready to handle the crisis. You become ready through the action of grounding yourself.
Cultivation. I like that. It feels less like a repair job and more like gardening.
That's a great analogy. You're cultivating a mind that can handle the storm.
Okay, so we've talked about work and crises, but this applies to the rest of life too. Let's talk about communication, relationships.
This is crucial because often when we're in high performance mode, our relationships suffer. We treat people like tasks to be checked off.
We try to optimize our conversations.
Yes, and the wisdom here introduces the concept of sati, which we translate as mindfulness. But a more literal translation is remembering. remembering to return to what is real.
So give me an example. What does sati look like on a stressed out Tuesday afternoon?
Okay, you get an angry email or a passive-aggressive message. Your immediate reaction is defense, anger, panic. A sankhara of reactivity fires off. The practice of sati is taking one single conscious breath before you type a reply.
Just one breath. That's the win.
Just one. That breath is an act of ahimsa, or non-harming. You're choosing not to harm the relationship, but more importantly, you're choosing not to harm your own nervous system with more cortisol. That single breath is a spiritual act.
That connects directly to relationships at home, too. There's this idea that small wins are the glue of intimacy.
It's beautiful, isn't it? We think relationships are saved by grand gestures, the vacation to Paris. But trust is built in the micro acts, what we call metta, or loving kindness.
So it's the partner who just says, thank you for the coffee.
Or the parent who puts their phone face down on the table for 10 minutes to truly listen to their child.
Putting the phone down, physically, that's such a tiny action.
It takes almost zero energy.
But the signal it sends is, it's massive. Right?
It's huge. It signals, you matter to me, even in the mundane. And frankly, for many of us, putting the phone away is harder than the Paris trip.
Ain't that the truth? Speaking of banks, let's talk about money. Finance is usually seen as this cold, rational world.
But we can take this small win concept right into the wallet. This is one of the most provocative applications, I think. We could look at the concept of dana, or generosity.
How does generosity help my financial anxiety? If I'm stressed about money, giving it away seems like the last thing I should do.
Well, think about the anxious investor. They check their portfolio every hour, driven by a fear of loss, a scarcity mindset. A small win could be automating a tiny, say, $5 weekly donation to a charity.
$5? That doesn't change your net worth.
No, it doesn't change the math, but it changes the mindset. It shifts you from fear of loss to flow. It aligns your action with your values and reminds you that money is energy that can move.
It proves to your subconscious that you have enough to give.
And that small act can soften the anxiety around the big numbers. You're breaking the paralysis of scarcity.
So we've looked at all these small things, washing bowls, breathing before emails, donating $5. But I can hear a listener asking, if I focus on all this small stuff, do I give up on the big goals? Do I just wash bowls for the rest of my life?
This is the goal paradox. And here's where it gets really interesting. The goal of small wins is not to reach the goal.
Wait, run that by me again. The goal isn't the goal.
The goal of small wins is to dissolve the tyranny of the goal. In Buddhism, we talk about dukkha, or suffering, and dukkha often arises from clinging.
Clinging to outcomes.
To outcomes, to timelines. I must have this job by 30. This project must be a hit.
The shoulds. The attachment to a future that hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. When we cling that tightly, we suffer, and ironically, we often perform worse. We choke. Small wins loosen that grip. When you focus on washing the bowl, you're not doing it to get somewhere. You're doing it to arrive, right here.
You're dissolving the pressure, taking the weight off the bar so you can actually lift it.
Yes, and there's a beautiful metaphor for this, the lotus and the mud.
I love this image. Break it down for us.
So the lotus flower is this pristine, beautiful symbol, but it only blooms in muddy water. It needs the mud. It doesn't reject the mud, it uses it as fuel.
And the mud is our deadlines, our bills, the conflict.
The exhaustion, the screaming kids, the failed code. That is not an obstacle to your success. It is the soil. Success isn't about escaping the mud to some pure mountaintop. It's about reconciling the inner and outer worlds.
So the monk and the merchant aren't enemies.
They are not.
Yeah.
That is a false dichotomy. The CEO who meditates for 10 minutes isn't wasting time. She's cultivating upekkha, or equanimity, so she can make decisions from clarity.
And the artist who sketches for 5 minutes instead of doom scrolling is practicing virya, or effortful perseverance.
Exactly.
It's funny because we started this by talking about the lazy path, but listening to you, it doesn't sound lazy at all. It sounds honest.
It is honest. It's dropping the pretense that we're machines. It's admitting that we're human beings who need to connect with what we're doing.
And it sounds like a relief. Like we can stop holding our breath, waiting for the big break, and just start.
That's the great reversal. We tend to think spirituality is the opposite of success. But this view suggests that spirituality is the soul of success. Without it, success is just noise.
So we aren't waiting for motivation.
No, we are waiting for permission. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to start small. Permission to matter exactly as we are right now.
That is a huge shift. From waiting for lightning to just giving yourself permission to light a candle.
Beautifully put.
So for the listener who is still staring at that blank document, or the dirty kitchen, or the scary bank account, what's the call to action?
The challenge is this. When you feel stuck, stop asking, how do I achieve the big goal? That question's too heavy. It will freeze you.
Every time.
Instead, ask, what is the smallest, truest thing I can do right now?
The smallest, truest thing.
Maybe it is tying your shoes with full attention. Maybe it's watering a plant. Maybe it is writing just the subject line of that email. Do it not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself.
Because in that act, you're back in the driver's seat.
Exactly. You're coming home to yourself. And from that home, you could build anything.
I love that. It takes the pressure off and puts the power back in our hands.
And I want to leave you with one final thought to carry forward. We've talked about this on a personal level. But what would happen if we applied this to leadership or to our company culture?
Oh, that's interesting. Corporate Zen.
Not just buzzwords, but really think about it. What if the most revolutionary thing you could do today, as a leader or a parent, is simply to begin, not with a roar, not with a big announcement, but with a whisper? What if the journey to real success is not upward, but inward?
And on that note, we'll leave you to find your next small win. Thanks for diving in with us.
Take care.